Good morning, everyone. I want to welcome you to our 10 steps to start. And as people join us, we're going to run through a couple of uh, things to make your day here with us work well for you and get into the meat of our presentation. So you've joined us for 10 steps to start. We are recording today's presentation. Our presenter is Mark Martinez, our Senior Business Advisor here at UHV SBDC. I am Jean Smith. I'm the Training Coordinator, and I am in the background for the entire webinar, so hopefully, cross fingers, things will work well. Tomorrow, you'll get an email from me with a link to today's recording, as well as a link to the survey if you don't get to take it at the end of today's presentation, a copy of the slides, and the handouts. Now, the handouts are in the chat, but if you miss picking them up, that's fine. We're going to take care of it and send you a PDF copy as well. So we just want to let you know that the mics and webcams are muted. You can ask questions through the chat. You can ask questions at any point during the webinar, but we're going to hold those questions for Mark to answer until the end. It does seem to work a little better that way. So while I'm running through this introduction, go ahead and use that chat so we know it's working. Just introduce yourself, what kind of business you're either in or looking to start, and where you're joining us from. That helps Mark and I make sure the information we present is helpful to you. If you're having audio issues, check your speakers and your audio settings. Know that your internet connection can affect the quality of the sound of this presentation. I also want to note that this webinar should not be considered legal or tax advice. Now, a little bit about our center and SBDCs in general. The University of Houston-Victoria SBDC is a business advising and training center, and we serve 11 counties here in South Texas. We are hosted by the University of Houston-Victoria, and we are part of the Texas Southwest SBDC network, which is hosted at UTSA in San Antonio. We are also a resource partner with the Small Business Administration. In Texas, SBDCs are funded in part through a cooperative agreement with the SBA as well as the state of Texas. So we are taxpayer funded, and we treat those dollars with the utmost of care. In addition, what you see on the chart, these are all the SBDC field centers throughout our network. And as you can see, they're hosted by a university or a community college. And in total, there are 79 counties here in South Texas that are covered by our network. So our little piece of the patch, as it were, is outlined there in red on the map of Texas, and you can see the counties that we cover. And we range from Aransas on the coast all the way to Karnes and Gonzales towards the Hill Country. So our network covers everything that's in blue. So it's a big part of Texas. Now, if you're interested in SBDC services, you are never far from an SBDC because they cover all the counties in this nation. There's over 1,000 of us. So I will send you information about how to either become a client of our center or to find your closest center. And just remember, the SBDC services are provided at no cost because you have already paid for them. Now, our services are no cost, confidential, and client driven. And so that means from startup to expansion to transition, our business advisors are available for the life cycle of your business. They do not provide legal or tax advice. And we are often confused with the Small Business Administration. However, we are not the SBA, and we do not have access to SBA-related records. What you're seeing on this screen are some of the services, certainly not all of the services, that we provide from here at our center. In addition, Within our network, we have access to specialty centers, and you can see those resources. Those resources at the specialty centers are also at no cost for our clients. Now let me introduce our speaker. Mark Martinez is a senior business advisor with the University of Houston, Victoria Small Business Development Center. And in his role as business advisor, he provides services primarily to Goliad, DeWitt, Lavaca, and Victoria counties. His experience in business began with office management before he graduated from college. He's also experienced in nursing home management and in commercial electric distribution. In addition, Mark has operated several successful small businesses. He was the 2021 State Star for our network. In addition, he is certified in a variety of certifications that help our clients, including QuickBooks, Lean Six Sigma, and as a Kaizen facilitator. He's also on the adjunct faculty of the University of Houston Victoria College of Business. He holds a Bachelor's of Business Administration in Accounting and a Master's of Science in Economic Development and Entrepreneurship. And both of those are from UHV. He is a UHV alumni. And with that, I am going to stop sharing and I am going to allow Mark to bring his screen up and we will get into the meat of today's presentation.
All right, good morning. Are you able to see my screen, Jean?
It hasn't come up yet.
Okay, let me go back here.
While you're doing that, I want to shout out to Carolyn, who's joining us from San Antonio. She's looking to open a retail store. Karen has joined us from Bernie. Barbara is still in the idea stage, which is great. That's what we help people with all the time. And Sylvia has joined us from San Antonio as well. And they are looking to start up an educational consulting business. So we are so glad to have you all here with us this morning. And Mark, I can see your screen now.
Okay.
So with that, I am going to go silent.
All right. Well, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for being here this morning and joining us to talk about starting your business. Many of you probably right now are all in the beginning stages of looking at starting your businesses. Maybe you have that idea, or maybe you've already started the process of getting your business going, but you know that there are several other things that you're probably missing. And sometimes it's just, we have all these ideas and things that we want to do, but we don't know how to structure it, or we don't know where the beginning of our process of going into business should be. So what we've done here at our center is we sat down and we talked about, and this isn't any type of scientific list or anything, but it is something that we decided to talk about and sit down and look at. Okay, well, when we're meeting with our clients, and we had to put this in a 10-step order, what would that 10-step order look like? And that's how we came up with our 10-step order of starting your own business. So one of the first things that we're going to be discussing is conducting market research. And market research is a very, very broad topic, not only from researching the market in which you're going to be providing your services and products to, also to conducting research on who your target market's going to be, your customer base, whether there's a need for that particular service or product in your community, to everything from learning and understanding business structures and which business structures you're going to need, or which one you would prefer rather for your particular business. Looking at maybe different types of licensing, permits, things that you're going to need throughout the business start. If you're looking at hiring employees, what are the steps there? What are the things that you have to be aware of and understand that you're going to have to do? And different agencies that you're going to have to basically apply to create accounts and those types of things. So there's a lot of things that really, really go on. And so with that, we're going to talk about the market research. We're going to talk about choosing a business name, the business structure, how do you go about registering your business and legitimizing that business structure for your business, obtaining federal, state, different state ID permits, things like that, to opening up a business bank account, and then applying for other licenses and permits, maybe through the Texas Department of I think it's TDLR, Texas Department of Licensing and Registering, uh, applying or writing your business plan, funding your business, and then picking your location, whether you're going to work from home, whether you're going to work from uh, an office somewhere, or wherever the location is going to be, because the location is also a very important piece to this whole thing, because uh, that's where you want to register your business and let people know that this is where, uh, and the state wants to know, the federal government wants to know, your county wants to know, uh, where are you operating your business out of. So with that, let's go ahead and get started and look at uh, research. And in order for uh, you know you to be successful in business, we have to plan. Planning is going to be a vital, vital part in what we do as an entrepreneur. One of the things that we tend to find is that many times our business owners uh, try to leave the planning stage out or try to reduce that as much as possible, but it's an ongoing thing. So, management management is all about uh, planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. And so we have to make sure that we plan properly and make sure that we take our time to plan and make sure that before we go into something, that we have everything in order that we need, and that we know what direction we're going into. So I always talk about that in our personal lives, we plan every day, whether it's going to the grocery store, whether it's having a birthday party, or a trip of some sort, or whatever the case may be. Those are usually not things that you do, uh, at the spur of the moment. Those are usually planned out months in advance. So if we take the time to plan in our personal lives, we should be taking that same time to plan in our business lives. And sometimes I see that a lot of entrepreneurs want to try to uh, you know, kind of skip that part and just go straight into doing what they want to do, the idea that they have, and those types of things. And that usually will lead to a lot of trial and error, and that could lead to spending a lot more money on things that maybe you shouldn't have. And we've seen it. We've seen that happen. But working with your local small business development centers and business advisors in those centers will help you in proper planning, help you build that business plan, help you understand what you're needing to start before you even spend any money, before you even get into any type of loans or any kind of funding. So I tell people all the time that you know planning doesn't cost you anything other than time, and it'd be in your best interest to make sure that you do the proper planning so that you have all the resources, all the tools to make a good sound decision before you just kind of jump right into it. We also have to make sure that within our planning, one of the resources that we need, of course, is financial resources. So we want to make sure that we have realistic expectations of financing. We want to make sure that projections and budgeting and everything are as realistic as possible, and that we're not setting ourselves up for failure or expectations that we can't meet. So one of the other things that we like to talk about a lot is to build those relationships, and we call it the Bell team, which is making sure that you have good rapport with the banker, making sure that you have an accountant, insurance agent, a legal team, your attorney, and then of course your local small business development centers, advisors that can also help you build that Bell team and help you get together with some of these other individuals out there that you're going to need. So again, number one, conducting that research, we want to look at different things like what are we going to offer. If we can't uh, tell anyone with 10 words or less of what we're going to offer, we really need to sit down and think about that, right? So that's our value proposition. What are we going to offer to our clientele that no one else is currently doing? And so a lot of times in this process, what we're doing is we're looking at what are our strengths, what are our weaknesses, what's going to make us different, what's going to make us better, what's going to make us more attractive to that potential customer. Because remember, you may not be the only one in the market. There may be others out there already doing what you're doing, providing the services and products that that you're thinking about doing, but what separates you from the rest of the pack? So again, we want to look at what kind of business, we want to look at the market. Is it saturated? Is this a good time to jump into this type of business? And have we again looked at everything that it takes to start this business? We also want to look at demographics, and with that, we're looking at geographics. So, demographics are dealing with, looking at what your customer is basically going to look like. From, are we going to be serving men and women or just men, age ranges, income ranges, and what is that customer going to look like? In terms of demographics. And then with that, also, we're going to look at geographics, which looks at, are we just serving our particular community that we're going to be located in? Are we serving that community plus others, maybe other surrounding counties, different things like that? So we need to know what that population looks like. We also need to know some of the psychographics as to who's more likely to uh, utilize your services and purchase your products, because not everybody can be your customer. So those are things that we have to keep in mind, and we have to make sure that we are taking all of that into account, that will be important for when you're marketing your business to someone else, and also understanding uh, where these potential customers could come from, and how you're going to entice them to utilize your services. Feasibility also is this, when we're going through the market research piece of it and we're doing that assessment on the business idea, we're looking at, is this something that we truly want to do? Does this make sense? Is it something that is the right time to go into it? And what happens with the research, again, like I said earlier, it gives you the resources and the tools to make a good sound decision. And if you find that right now is not the perfect time for you to get into business, that's okay, because you didn't, again, the only thing that it cost you was time, but it didn't cost you money, it didn't cost you anything else. um, and so that's what goes into this market research, is that it allows you to kind of lay everything out on the table and see, is this the right time for myself, for my family, and for everyone else that's going to be involved. And then, of course, we talked a little bit already as far as competition, but again, we want to look at, what are the strengths, weaknesses of the current competition, and also what are the strengths and weaknesses of yourself coming into the market. if you're going to be competing with these other local businesses. So, again, what are you going to do differently? What are you bringing to the table that they currently aren't? And how can you improve on the things that maybe they have that you don't have currently, because now you're new to the market. You haven't really been around as long, so you don't have the recognition and the awareness and those types of things that the other current businesses have. So how do you combat that, right? So all of the research allows us to look at and see, you know, what opportunity is out there, because there's opportunities all around us. It's just a matter of us being able to uh, be willing to see what those opportunities are. And so what happens with that, with the equation of an opportunity, is that we have identified a problem that exists in the community, and we have found a solution to that problem, which creates opportunity. And that's kind of where our value proposition comes, is that what we offer is, okay, we've identified something that may not exist in the community, or maybe there's not enough of it in the community, or maybe it's just, maybe it exists already, but it's not to the level that you would like it. And so, with your solution, you should be able to explain what you're offering to your potential new clients. So again, when we're looking at, the value proposition is, what do we offer? What are we doing differently? Why should customers come to you versus the competition, and so forth. So again, now we're going to look at what kind of business, or what are you going to be offering? Are you going to be offering products, services? Are you going to have a brick and mortar storefront? Are you going to be selling online? Are you going into a franchise um, location? Are we going to purchase an existing uh, building, or maybe even purchase an existing business? Um, or is this, from, new from the start? So those are all the things too that we're going to have to determine in order for us to begin to move forward. So once you've done a lot of that research, you analyzed your business idea, you've done the assessment, you've looked at the market, then one of the other things too is looking at, what is this going to uh, cost in order for us to get the doors open, or to get this business started. So now we're looking at financing. What are all the things that it takes to obtain funding? How much money do we have to bring to the table? And so usually, uh, if you're looking at obtaining any kind of funding, lenders are going to require at least 20%. Sometimes I've seen 25%. Sometimes I've seen 10%, 15%, but it just all depends on the lender and who you're working with. But the you know the percentage to really go with is, if you budget 20% of the total that you're looking to borrow, that should be sufficient. So once we start to look at that, and understand all the different things that it's going to take, because a lot of times, uh, you know, financing can also take some time. So usually, financing can take up to at least 90 days. So you also have to take that into account. Uh, and sometimes it can be even longer than 90 days. So you have to kind of take that into account into your research of how much time is it going to take to obtain financing, and because usually without the funding, you can't open the doors. So uh, once you kind of have all this put together, then of course we're talking to potential customers to kind of see, where, kind of fill them out a little bit and see if this would be something that people would like to have in the community. So we talked a lot about this already with the demographics, psychographics, competitors, target market, your industry. We talked about the feasibility. And then one of the things that we also have to talk about now is the owner responsibilities in owning a business, because now you're going to be wearing all of the hats that there are in business. So I mean, you're gonna be that human resource specialist. You're gonna handle all the financial resources, all the information, physical resources. So you're gonna be responsible for everything. You're gonna, yeah, and so a lot of times, you haven't been in that situation, and so that can also be a challenge. But again, working with your small business development centers will allow you to obtain that assistance that you need in all the different management or business functions that require you, to learn and in order for you to run a successful business. So again, these are things that we're going to have to be learning. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Again, small business development centers are there to help you along the way to try to make things less overwhelming and get you to the next step of operating and opening a small business. There's a lot of research sources that you can go to, not only to the SBDC centers, but there's also the Census Bureau, Bureau of Labor Statistics, industry associations, your local chambers, and economic development corporations. So there's a lot of different places also that you can obtain a lot of the information that you're going to need and be looking for. So now that we've kind of gone through some research and we've kind of are starting to put things together, and figure out, okay, uh, what directions should we go into? We've looked at all those things. Now it's time to kind of look at and see what should I name my business, right? And it's usually dealing with something that pertains to the business, right? And so one of the easiest things to do is to register your business locally in your county. They also have, which would be at the county clerk's office, and they have a registry in which they'll look and see, is that name being used in their local registry. The state of Texas also does the same thing if you're looking at becoming an LLC. And what I tell my clients all the time is that when you're choosing a name, uh, have maybe 2 to 3 names picked out in case your first name that you're trying to go with isn't available. I've seen that happen before where client had a name picked out and turns out that it's too closely related to a name that is already being used or a name that's already being used. So this way there isn't you don't there isn't any surprises, or there isn't any uh, you know worry about, okay, well, what am I going to do now? I don't have another name picked out. This gives you the opportunity to have 3 names chosen, and then if the first one isn't available, well, you have the second one to go to, and if that one isn't available, you have the third one to go to. So that is one thing that I always usually tell my clients, is to have at least 3 names picked out just in case. Uh, Most of the times we find that the first name that you have is pretty unique and uh, usually isn't one that's already being used, but there are times that that can happen. So 7 tips to follow. Follow your business structure naming guidelines, not too similar to a competitor's name, a name that people can spell and pronounce. Web friendly, memorable, but not too unique, consistent with your brand, and don't limit yourself in naming your business. So now, once we've done the research, we have an idea of what we want to name it, what we want to name our business. Now it's time to look at business structures. So we have multiple different business structures, and we always hear the most popular one being the LLC, which is the limited liability company. Uh, many of our entrepreneurs and small business owners typically aren't corporations, because that's just something that is usually too big, for the businesses and clients that we're seeing and working with. So the corporation is usually not one of the options. It tends to be one of the other three of sole proprietorship, partnership, or an LLC. Your sole proprietorship is just a one person owned business. Again, it's one of the easiest ways to get into business and register your business and get that business, legit and up and running. You just go to your local county clerk's office in your county that you're going to be operating the business in, and register that business name with them. Now, in every county, the county clerk does have different fees for obtaining that DBA. Sometimes they call them a DBA, doing business as, or an assumed name certificate. So I've seen them range anywhere from $14 to $30. So it just depends on your local county. Again, that's just a one person owned business. You can also do what's called a general partnership through your local county clerk's office if you're going into partnership with someone. If you do that, then they automatically will assume you to be 50-50 partners. You don't get a choice of picking the percentage of ownership between you and your partner. So you have to be careful with that. Now, if you are doing 50-50, which is something we usually don't recommend, we always say to make sure to have 51-49, or what other combination of percentages. But if you go through the county clerk's office, you're going to automatically be assumed 50-50. Now we go over to the limited liability company. This is the one that is popular throughout, all your social media platforms. You probably have seen videos on YouTube and TikTok and different things that talk about the LLC, and that this is the way to go. And so again, for me, it really just boils down to preference. But one of the things that I always look at too is what type of liability will you have with the business that you're starting. And it may make more sense to do the LLC, and it may make more sense to do a sole proprietorship. So again, you have to really kind of look at your industry, your business, and what it is that you're looking to do. Of course, the LLC is a very flexible hybrid business structure. So you get the protection of a corporation and the flexibility of a sole proprietorship. The terminology does change between business structures, from owner being sole proprietorship and your general partnership, to now converting over to LLCs. Owners are referred to now as members. And if you have a partnership within an LLC, now it becomes a multi-member LLC. And now with the LLC, if you do have partners, in the operating agreement, it does allow you to specify the owner percentages there, if it's 80-20 or 30-70 or whatever the case may be. So you can actually spell that out in the operating agreement. We always suggest that you talk to an attorney, or sometimes CPA firms will also do them. Then you also have a lot of other online platforms that will also help you process them. So again, just kind of look at your options, make sure that you pick the right one. And many times people do process them themselves through the Secretary of State website. It's not really, I mean, you can do it, but we don't really recommend that either, because again, you're going to need that operating agreement. There's other documents that you're going to need as well. And especially for opening up a bank account. Now, there are several banks out there that won't open up a bank account for an LLC if it does not have the operating agreement. So again, this is just kind of going over what I talked about earlier. You can go through Secretary of State or local county clerk's office. It gives you some detail about what sole proprietorships, partnerships do, and their responsibilities and what they're liable for. And we want to make sure too that we understand that with LLCs, there's you can also have the professional LLCs and things like that, but those are going to be for those who hold professional licenses like doctors and CPAs, law firms, those types of things. The other thing that we usually hear a lot of is that sometimes people who have LLCs will file for an S Corp designation with an LLC, regardless of whether you have an S Corp designation or not. You're still an LLC, so it does not make you a corporation. All it does is, for tax purposes, you're filing as a corporation, but you're still an LLC. Sometimes I hear clients say, I'm a corporation, and then we look at the paperwork and they're actually an LLC, but have the S Corp designation. And again, here you can see that the terminology changed from owners to members. And again, it goes through the responsibilities and things that business owners would have to go through if they had this particular business structure. So now that we've learned about the research, naming the business, looking at different business structures and choosing which one is best for us, then now it's time to register those either again with the local county or state, and then also we have to look at and see, do we need any type of different federal and tax IDs? So a lot of these will be your sales tax permits, also your employer identification number. That's a federal tax ID number. So when you obtain a sole proprietorship or an LLC, then you can also apply for an EIN number or an employer identification number through the IRS. And you can do that at irs.gov. If you're having a lawyer or someone else process the paperwork for you to obtain an LLC, typically they will obtain that EIN for you. It's usually within the price that they are charging you, but you can do this on your own. The EIN number is free of charge, so be careful with that. I've heard a lot of clients say that they've gone online and found places that will process the EIN number for them, and they're charging anywhere between $200 to $300 to do it, and it's actually something that the IRS provides at no cost. The other thing that you can do too, if you're needing an EIN number and don't know how to do it, you can always go to your local SBDC office, and an advisor there can help you apply for the EIN number and obtain your federal tax ID. Local, state, and federal. One of the things that we also have to look at is that small business owners will have to pay local property taxes and retentions. That usually comes at the end of the year, usually at the end of your first year. So don't be surprised when you get something from the county appraisal's office telling you that you owe business taxes. That's simply the way it's been explained to me in the past, is that those taxes are there because of you being able to do business within their counties. And so that money goes towards infrastructure and different things like that. If you're going to be hiring employees, we have to make sure that we apply with the electronic funds transfer portal, EFTPS. So we want to make sure that we have that. We also need to make sure that we're also registering with the Texas Workforce Commission for unemployment tax. So because you will be paying that to the state of Texas. With the state comptroller, you may have to apply for a sales tax permit. So the sales and use tax permit is also another term for it. That is actually the same thing. So if you are selling products or providing any type of services in which you have to collect sales tax, you want to make sure that you again register and create your account with the state comptroller's office and register for that sales and use tax permit so that you can make sure that you're collecting your sales tax from your customers and making sure that you're paying that to the state comptroller. With that, if you're an LLC or a corporation, you will also be filing what's called a franchise tax return. Typically, most of our clients don't pay anything because there's a certain threshold that you have to meet and before you even get taxed by the state for franchise taxes. So you want to make sure that you're filing that on time. And then, of course, the IRS, if you're hiring employees, just remember that you will have to pay payroll taxes, which is your Social Security, Medicare, federal withholding. And you want to make sure that all these different taxes that you are paying, you want to make sure that you are paying them on time because there are penalties and things that will come with not making those proper payments on time to all these state, local, and federal agencies. So now it's time to open up a business bank account. So we've put together a business structure. We have you know we have obtained our EIN number. We have all the proper paperwork that we need, and now it's time to open up a business bank account. We want to make sure that we're keeping our business separated from our personal. Sometimes we see small business owners that are operating out of their personal bank accounts, and that's something that we never recommend. We want to make sure that is kept separate because that can turn in basically, I always like to say, into a bowl of spaghetti, right? It's just everything is intermingled. We don't know what's what, and it just makes it so much harder to know where our money's going and where it's coming from and those types of things. So we want to make sure that everything is flowing nice and smoothly, efficient and effective as possible through our business bank account. Sometimes I see clients also, sometimes even though they have a business bank account, they're still using their personal bank card or whatever to purchase things because it was the first card that they found in their wallet. So they just use that. And I always stress, make sure if it's for anything that you're doing, any transactions that you have for business, that you're using your business bank account, no matter what. It just makes it so much easier for bookkeeping and accounting purposes and knowing what you spent for, whatever the case may be. Number 7, applying for licenses and permits. We talked about some of the federal, state permits that you may possibly need, but also licenses that maybe in your profession you may be required to obtain. So a lot of those again are coming from the Texas Department of Labor and Registry, licensing and registry. So you may also need permits from your local city, county governments, local health department, TABC, building requirements. Sometimes those are all things that sometimes our clients kind of skip. So especially if you're opening up a location in your community, you want to make sure that you're having meetings with your local business development departments in your city, and making sure that that you have all the proper because they will let you know what type of permits you're going to need, what type of building requirements are required before you just sign a lease or before you open those doors, because the last thing that you need is to sign a lease. Now you're stuck in a contract and the city comes and shuts you down because you didn't follow the proper procedures and obtain the proper permits. Uh, and so you want to make sure that you're having those meetings with them prior to signing any leases and opening those doors so that you can know, do I have to put in a grease trap, or do I have to put in upgrade new electrical wiring? Maybe I have to put in a new sign, or maybe I have to change the lines on the in the parking lot to go a different direction than what they're facing now. And I've seen those things happen before. So make sure that you know your industry, know the licenses and permits that are going to be required of you to open up the doors. Some of the other things to consider, of course, we want to make sure that we have insurance. We want to make sure that you know if there's any other type of contracts or lease agreements. Um, we usually don't see too many of the patents and trademarks and those types of things, but you may be one of those who may need to obtain some of those uh, and go through some of the registries and make sure that you're registering for those. Number 8 is and again, a lot of these things that we're talking about today, there's going to be a lot of things that are being done simultaneously. So, uh, I just wanted to throw that out there because you may be working on different things all at the same time. So number 8 is writing that business plan. So that business plan, it can be a very simple business plan or a very structured business plan. If you're going to obtain funding, um, usually it's going to be the formal structured business plan. So that's really going to give you the ability to go through and give an executive summary and talk about your management, talk about your management plan, talk about your marketing plan, your financial plan. All those things are going to be within that business plan. But again, that business plan is going to be something that you need for your business in order for you to move forward. That is part of the planning that you must do to be successful. So a lot of times, people are wanting to do the business plan because they are obtaining funding, but that shouldn't be the only reason. We should be using that as a tool for us to know where we are today and where we want to be tomorrow. So it isn't set in stone, so it can be revised. It can be changed as your business grows and expands, and you find yourself branching off into other complementary services that fall in line with what you do. Uh, One of the things that we also put together is what's called a business model canvas that you can see in the background here. And this is kind of what we also talk about as a very simple lean startup, but it kind of gives you the ability to put things on paper and know, like for example, what you're offering, what your customer relationships look like, and revenue streams and so forth. So what we also need to do is make sure that our personal goals align with our family goals and our business goals. And so we want to make sure that all three are in alignment before we move forward. And parts of the business plan, again, I kind of talked about a little bit about that earlier, but it's really going to spell out who you are, what you're doing, and what are your plans for moving forward. And then number 9, funding your business. We talked about that a little bit in earlier in the beginning. You may fund your business yourself out of your own funds, or you may have some investors that may need to see what your plans are. So it really doesn't matter whether it's family, friends, uh, lending institutions. Everybody's going to want to see uh, what are your plans and how are you going to achieve what you're trying to achieve. No one's just going to say, you're a good person and we want to give you money. So we want to make sure that we plan properly. Uh, and again, most of the time, what we're seeing is clients, obtaining some type of funding through a lending institution or through a micro lender. But again, the process is all the same. Make sure that you're borrowing what you can afford, and you'll know that too based on that 20% injection that you're going to be required to put in. So capital can be, again, come from the owner themselves. It can come from outside that we just talked about. There are sometimes some in smaller communities. There can be some grant opportunities and things like that we really don't get into too much. But so we're really, most of the time, we're working a lot more with commercial loans, your traditional lenders and your micro lenders like Lift Fund, BCL of Texas, People Fund. So those are going to be other options as well for you to try to obtain some funding to get your business going. When you're looking at financing for your business, you want to make sure that you're lender ready. You want to make sure that you've looked at your credit history, your credit scores. You want to make sure that you're following the 5 C's of lending, that you have a good financial plan, and that you have the available injection that lender is probably going to ask you for. Well, not probably, they will ask you for. And so you want to make sure that you have that available when speaking to your lender. And again, going through an SBDC, you're going to be much more uh, lender ready because we're going to take you through the proper processes of being able to put all these documents and everything together that you're going to need, and be much more lender ready when you go see and have that appointment with the lender. And then number 10, our final piece of it is picking your business location. Again, whether that's going to be, you working from your home, whether you're going to have a separate location somewhere that you're going to be operating out of, or whether you're going to have an online store that you're going to be selling your products. That's also considered a location. So now it's time to kind of see what is best for you, your customers, and your business. And then now we're ready to open. So I always tell my clients all the time is the hardest part to starting a business and figuring out what is best for us is all of the structuring, all of the process of getting there. So but I always tell everyone, just be patient. Don't get discouraged, because sometimes even with obtaining funding, you may have to go to 2 or 3 different lenders and try, because I've seen that happen too, that maybe the first lender said no, but the third one said yes. So it just depends on what the lender is looking for. So there can be some times that may seem a little bit frustrating, or it can there can be times that you may say, I don't know that I'm ever going to be able to do this, but if you just take it step by step and overcome those obstacles and know that there's always other options for you available, you can definitely obtain your dream and open up that business that you're eager to open. So start smart, determine personal fit, evaluate your market, understand financial requirements, keep your day job. That's one of the most important things. Again, especially when you're looking for funding, they always want to see what other sources of income you have coming in. So if you have a job currently, you may want to keep that job and make sure in order to secure that lending that you possibly need. Take your time and do it right. That's something that we always stress, is make sure that you're taking your time. Don't rush it. Don't put yourself in a situation that could be detrimental. So make sure you take your time, make sure that you're thinking things through, and then this way, when you do open or when you do start, you know, you've done everything you're supposed to, and you're ready to move forward. Be honest with yourself and others, find your competitive advantage, and then, of course, seek professional advice and assistance, whether that's through your local SBDC offices or centers, and then also through outside professional advice with your accountants, your lawyers, your insurance agents, and so forth, your bankers. So again, you can meet with an advisor if you have not gone through the Small Business Development Center. You want to make an appointment. You want to plan for 1 to 2 hour visit. Bring any work, research or any kind of paperwork that you may have, and then also definitely feel free to bring if you have business partners or your support team, whether that's your husband or your wife or your best friend, whoever the case may be, uh, can definitely sit in the meeting with you, if you would like them to. So with that, thank you very much for being with us and allowing me to talk to you guys about 10 steps of starting your business, and we'll open it up to any questions that may be out there.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Really appreciate that. And while we're going through the questions, I am going to launch a poll. And for those of you that are with us, if you just take a moment to answer those questions, that'll be awesome. Our first one, let's see here, is what type of business structure matters if over time your business gets bought out by another company?
Well, it really doesn't matter, um, whether it's an LLC or a corporation or even a sole proprietorship. If someone wants to buy your business, um, they're going to buy your business. So I've even had my own small businesses where I had sole proprietorship and someone came along and wanted to buy it. So, I was able to make the sale. They were able to make the purchase, and we converted everything over into the new owner's name, and they took it over and are still operating today. But so the business structure really isn't uh, uh, how to say it isn't going to be a deal breaker, because what can happen too is even if someone bought, let's just say, a company that was a sole proprietorship, they can convert that business structure into whatever they want to. They can either keep it the same, they can convert it into a corporation or into an LLC. So again, uh, they can make those changes once they have ownership of your business if you're the one selling it to them. And the same thing with anyone that is in business currently. You can change the type of business structure that you currently have. So, um, it really, like I said, it's not going to really be a deal breaker when it comes to selling your business or someone purchasing it.
Okay, and another question we have is, I'm interested in researching grants that would assist in funding my business and how to achieve those grants to bring employment opportunities and positively drive the local commerce.
Mhm.
So anything that you'd like to say to that?
Yeah, so I mean, if you have employees, I would definitely look at working with your local Texas Workforce Commission office. There may be some opportunities there for employing uh, other employees, or helping you bring more training to your current employees. If you're also looking for grant opportunities, check with your local economic development corporation. Again, uh, not every single community offers grant opportunities, so just check with them. Maybe check with your local chambers. And of course, there are things outside of that. There are websites and things like that that you can look at for grant opportunities. But and you can even maybe check with your local SBDC offices in your area. to see if they may have or have any knowledge or resources of where you could go for that.
Okay, our next question is from someone that's running a consulting business. So they're a service, but they want to get paid for their services. So are they considered for-profit or nonprofit?
Well, I mean, even with the nonprofit and for-profit, you know, they're receiving some kind of funding, but uh, if you're going to, I guess I have to ask this question, that if you're more than likely going to be a for-profit, you probably aren't doing this as a free service or anything like that in the community. Uh, so most small business owners are going to be for profit because you're trying to make money. So if you're trying to make money, and that's the goal of owning a business, then you're definitely going to be for profit.
And there is a cost to starting a nonprofit, just like there is to starting a for-profit.
Right. Yeah. And so nonprofits operate a little bit differently. I mean, they're still a business. They're still generating income, but uh, it's usually nonprofits are usually doing it for some type of cause in their community. So if that's not the case with you, then I would not look at doing nonprofit and making sure that you are for profit and obtaining a business structure like a sole proprietorship or LLC or something like that, so that you can uh, operate your business and then also show that on your tax returns and stuff like that.
Okay, and Carolyn has asked for a list of websites for researching grants, and um, I certainly will send you some information. I will point out the U.S. Chamber of Commerce has a webpage they keep updated all the time about grants that are out there. You can also go to grants.gov, which are, if you're interested in a grant from the U.S. government, but you got to keep in mind those typically are for research, maybe for large projects. If you want to sell your goods or your services to the government, the state of Texas has the CMBL list. If you are a minority business owner, you can get on certified and get on the hub list for the state. Um, I want to say the federal side is called SAM. And we do have partners through the Apex Accelerator that can help you with it, because we have helped a lot of clients achieve those certifications or get on those lists like the CMBL list. But keep in mind, once again, you have to promote your business. You have to market it. You can't just be on a list, because if you're on a list, you're on a list. That doesn't mean somebody's going to pick up the phone and call you. So there's a lot of work, whether you're for profit or nonprofit.
Yeah, and the
Um,
other thing,
mhm.
what I was going to mention too, with grant programs, you also have to remember that most of those are reimbursement type of grants, so you still have to put in the money first, and then show that you actually did what you were supposed to do with that money. So a lot of times it's not just handed over. You're having to still put in that investment first, and then uh, you know that that Economic Development Corporation or whatever, is going to look at what you've done and then determine whether uh, you would qualify for a reimbursement grant.
Yep, that's a very good point. And they're a lot of work. There is much work as starting a for-profit business. So, you know, uh, in our previous versions of this, we used to have a section called if it's too good to be true, it's too good to be true.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone promises you that they will find a grant for you and they will get you grant funding, be very, very careful, because no one can um, in reality, nobody can do that. You have to apply. It's like applying for a scholarship. and you have to hope that what you're asking for aligns with the grant funders' goals and vision as well. So,
Yeah, it's kind of like
um,
playing the lottery.
yes.
Everybody, there's multiple people that are applying, not just you. And so it's kind of the luck of the draw. And, you may be the lucky one, but also going back to what Gene said with some of these, there's a lot of uh, agencies and stuff out there that say, if you, join with us and you have this membership and you pay us and we'll find all these grants for you. Typically, you're going to pay more into it than what you probably will ever receive in return.
Okay, and we have another question, and this is from Cynthia, and she goes, she wants to know, it's just her and her partner, and they're starting consulting business. Is it feasible to simply do a DBA as a partnership?
I mean, it is, again, going back, if you do the general partnership through your local county clerk's office, just remember that uh, you will be automatically assumed 50/50 partners. So uh, if you really need to have that discussion with your business partner and make sure that I always tell my clients to always have that heart-to-heart talk with their business partner. Make sure that you know their vision and your vision align for this business, and before you give away half of your business. Always one thing that was always told to me a lot of time a long time ago was that a partnership is the only ship that doesn't float. And so you have to be very, very careful as to who you go into business with, because going into a partnership is like going into a marriage, and if you don't see eye to eye, uh, you know there could be trouble looming in the future, and just like a relationship, if those partners aren't uh, you know in sync, it leads into divorce, and same thing with the business. It can lead into a breakup. And so before you go into this partnership, make sure that you're asking all those, heart to heart questions, making sure that your partner and yourself are on the same page and want the same things. And then also figuring out, are you willing to give up half of your company ownership of the company to the partner, or is this something that maybe you want to have more ownership in, and maybe the partner only wants to have 20% and you have 80%, or so that's something that you will have to really talk through with that business partner, and before you go into whether it's a general partnership or doing an LLC multi-member uh, structure.
And Mark, if I decide to start as a DBA and then I say, oh, wait a minute, I need a partnership agreement, I probably need an LLC. How hard is it to make that changeover?
Yeah, it's not that hard to make that transition. I mean, I've seen a lot of clients go from sole proprietorships into LLCs, and so it's just a matter of processing the proper paperwork. The one thing, if you're doing a change in business structure, there are some things that you do have to think about, especially if you have employees, um, things like that. You never want to make that transition halfway through the year or in the middle of a quarter or anything like that, because it really, really will throw off, uh, the, so how do I say, like, I guess let me put it to you this way. If you have a sole proprietorship and you have employees, and say you go to the end of June and you decide, okay, now I'm going to be an LLC for the second half of the year. Well, now you've just cut off the 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 year in which you were paying that those employees. So now you're going to have to do a W-2 from the sole proprietorship for the first half and a W-2 for the second half with your LLC. So a lot of times you want to make sure that either you're starting at the very beginning of the year, so you can start making that transition, because it usually will take about 2 to 3 months anyways to make a transition. So by the time you obtain an LLC, that's usually about a month, and then get your EIN number. Because the other thing that you have to also do is change everything over. So you have to create a new bank account, because it's kind of like starting all over when you transition into a new business structure. So you have to get a new bank account, change all your insurance policies into the new name, or new business structure, change all that information with your vendors and all those things. So, I mean, there is a little bit of work to it, but uh, it isn't very hard to do. Is just making sure that is something that you do want to do.
Okay, and this brings up a good question. If you do go into this partnership and then you need to dissolve it, what are the steps to officially dissolve the partnership, or can you just change the name of your business?
Yeah, you
Good
can't
question.
change. Yeah, you can't just change the name of the business. So what you'll have to do, whether again, if you have a general partnership with the county clerk's office, then you'll need to go to the county clerk's office and dissolve that general partnership there. And maybe you just want to now become a sole proprietorship. So you're going to dissolve it, and then you can obtain uh, the the sole proprietorship at the same time. Of course, you're going to have to pay for the dissolving of one and the creation of the other. Same thing with the LLC. You would have to dissolve that with the state of Texas, and then file for your new LLC. Um, and then there's going to have to be some things done too on the federal side. So like if you have, and even on the state side again, with if you had a sales tax permit, you have to contact the state comptroller. You have to let the IRS know that you're no longer operating and in business, because again, that partnership had its own EIN number, that employer identification number. And so now you have to let everybody know that that tax ID number, that business is no longer in operation. And so, you'll have to talk to your tax preparer, whoever is doing that, so that they can file uh, that final tax return, and the IRS will know that you're no longer in operation. State will know that you're no longer in operation. And then that information will flow over to the county, so that the county also knows that you're no longer in operation. But then you can again start your new business or business structure, uh, you know, and you just have to go through the whole process all over again.
And Jeanette has looks like our final question, and it's a great one. I want to thank her for asking this. But is there an age limit for starting a business? And I didn't say the name Warren Buffett, but
No, there's no age limit for starting a business. I mean, there's I've seen young children, 8, 9, 10 years old. I mean, I've seen some of their products too in some of the uh, local stores. There's one that comes to mind. Uh, there is I think it's called Bees Lemonade, that is sold like in HEBs and things like that. And that was a child entrepreneur. Of course, her family helped her and working with her and things like that. So then you can be, uh, 50, 60 years old and starting your own business. So, the average age for someone going into business is usually around 30 to 35. And that's only because that typically that's the average age, only because they have been in the workforce. They now have some experience behind them. They now may have been able to save up some money to get, to start and get into their own business. But there isn't any age limit or limitations to starting a business. There's also no limitation to uh, you know uh, people, we see a lot of people too with different disabilities and things like that that also have their own businesses. So, I mean, there isn't any limits to anything uh, that says that you can't be an entrepreneur, because anybody can be an entrepreneur as long as you have an idea, you have a dream, and you have a passion. Anybody can do it.
Okay, and then Cynthia'd like to know if we recommend going to LegalZoom to set up a DBA, or do you suggest paying an attorney? Attorneys can be expensive.
Yeah.
I'll let you answer that, because
Okay. Yeah.
as we
So
said, no legal advice, no tax advice from
right.
us.
Yeah, so I mean, LegalZoom is a great platform. I've had a lot of clients use it. I can tell you, all I can tell you really is that many of my clients who have actually used LegalZoom uh, have uh, have enjoyed it and had positive results from it. So again, it just goes back to preference. If that's the route that you want to go to, that would be a decision for you. Or if you decided to go with a lawyer, that's also a decision for you to make.
Okay, we have one more question coming in. So we'll wait for that to come in. Just remind everybody, please take the poll if you haven't taken it. If you can't see it or it didn't work for you, no worries. We'll send a link to it when I send out your email tomorrow, and you'll get a copy of the slides, a copy of the handouts. They are in the chat, but I don't know about you guys. Sometimes Teams doesn't work like I think it should. Carolyn made a note that there's also Zen Business, and I think when I hear business advisors talk about getting assistance, legal assistance, you need to know what kind of assistance that you need, and you need to have some knowledge of that. And we can help you learn and help you make a more informed decision when you choose how you'll get your legal services. Don't you think, Mark?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, we can definitely, steer you in the right direction. We just can't be your lawyer, or can't be your accountant, or, you know, so that's the only things that, we have to be very careful with.
And I am not seeing any more questions. Oh, here we go. Is there a credible resource that we can recommend to seek investors for a business? And that's a great question, because we
Yeah,
do get that.
that is a good question. I mean, I don't know of any resources to try to find investors or anything like that. I mean, there are. I have heard of groups out there, or organizations that uh, are investors and looking to find opportunities for them to invest in. I don't have a list, or uh, you know or names of anybody that we know of off the top of our head.
If you're a client and you would have that need, we can always go out to the other centers within our
Mhm.
network and in our specialty centers, the advisors there, and work to do that research and get it back to our client. That's part of the research that
Mhm.
we can help a client with. Okay. Well, I am not seeing any other questions. You all see on the screen about how to contact us if you need us. If you go to our webpage, you can see how to become a client. Tomorrow, I will send information, so don't think, oh my gosh, I got to go write it down. But, you know, we'll send you the information on how to become a client of the SBDC. Remember, as Mark says, that's a prepaid service that our taxpayers have paid for. If you didn't get a chance to take the poll, we'll send out the 1-minute survey link. And you can find us on social media. I recommend joining our Facebook group or following us on LinkedIn. And with that, thank you all for being here today, taking time from your schedules. I hope we've answered your questions, and we will see you at the next webinar. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, and don't forget to reach out to your local small business development center in your area.